So now I'm excited to introduce our guest, Dr. Mariangela Hungria. Dr. Hungria is a researcher with the Brazilian Agricultural Research Corporation, Embrapa, where she has worked since 1982, as well as a professor of microbiology and biotechnology at the University of Londrina. Dr. Hungria's work has helped Brazil become an agricultural powerhouse while helping farmers cut costs, reduce their reliance on chemical fertilizers, and restore soils. She has received dozens of awards and accolades throughout her career, and earlier this year, the World Food Prize Foundation, in honor of her extraordinary work on nitrogen fixation, soil health, and crop nutrition, announced that Dr. Hungria is this year's World Food Prize laureate. In October, Dr. Hungria will be formally recognized at the 2025 World Food Prize ceremony in Des Moines, Iowa. Congratulations, Dr. Hungria. It is so wonderful to have you here.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor for me to have this opportunity of talking about biological use in agriculture.
Thank you so much. So, I want to go back in time a little bit. When you first started college, we were seeing significant yield benefits and increases because of the Green Revolution and its use of artificial fertilizers. But you envisioned something that you called a microgreen revolution. Can you talk about this research and why it appealed to you?
Well, I think that since I was a child, I really loved microorganisms. Since I was 8 years old, when my grandma gave me a book about the life of microbiologists,
Nice.
I started to be crazy about microorganisms. But I also was very touched when I saw somebody starving on the
Sure,
street.
sure.
I decided to have a career where I could relieve in some manner these people not having access to food. Therefore, I decided to go to study agronomy. But I went to the university to study agronomy. But then I think I went to the university. It was 1976.
Wow.
And in 1970, we had this Norman Borlaug that received the Nobel Prize because he was applying breeding and heavy chemical fertilizers. And he changed the view of producing food at that time. Because we have the expectation that population in the world was growing exponentially,
Right.
and the food was not. So there was this big concern about that humanity would die,
Hmm.
many people without food. So this incredible man proved through breeding and heavy chemical fertilizers that no, there was a way of producing more food, not starving the humanity. And so it was a great thing. He saved millions of people from starving. But I was at the university 6 years later with this view that agriculture was just possible in large scale to produce food for humanity with the application of a heavy application of chemical fertilizers.
Hmm.
So, but then I had this dream since I went to the university because I wanted to study biology
Uh-huh.
applied to production of food. Then it was not easy because at the university I just had classes of
Right.
chemical fertilizers, not biological. And then when I finished university, it was not easy either because everybody said that I had no future with biologicals.
Wow.
Because uh, the idea was that biologicals they could only be applied to small farmers
Sure.
or organic farmers, not the type of agriculture that Brazil was experiencing
Right.
that large production. We were just starting by the end of the 70s, in the 80s, to produce more, because it's amazing, till the 1960s in Brazil we imported food, and so
Right, right.
we were experiencing this. We were not importing food, and we were beginning to export. And it's not easy to start your career when everybody says that you are not going to have future. Okay,
Right.
early career, you just want to save the world. Nobody believes that you can do some contribution, but it's amazing. I had many opportunities of changing,
Uh-huh.
including change to chemical fertilizers, but I had that on my heart, that I would find a way of applying biologicals in agriculture.
And you certainly did. And you've come full circle after seeing Dr. Borlaug on campus and, having this great, opportunity to share your work with so many people. I want to ask you, you said it was not easy to do this work at the beginning. And, you've been a champion of regenerative agriculture before that term was even used widely. And I'm hoping, that you can talk about how, you know, are you surprised to see all of this interest in regenerative agriculture now, or did you sort of predict that that was coming?
No, look, first, I decided that to have some success, I had to change the way that I was doing research, because research on biologicals, as I commented before, it was more towards small agriculture,
Right.
organic farmer. I said, no, I have to reach maximum yield. Okay, to attain to maximum productivity in large areas, because
Mm-hmm.
if I succeed in that situation, I will succeed in all types of farmers and agriculture.
Right.
So it's not easy, because because I looked for my microorganisms in nature, and in nature you have to find a lot, because it's not natural in nature to have a maize yielding 15,000
Right.
kilograms per hectare, or a soybean 10,000 kilograms per hectare. So it was a very intensive search of microorganisms, and even then kind of breeding of microorganisms, like I found some microorganisms that had very high capacity of nitrogen fixation, but then they were not adapted to this new area that
Sure.
we were cropping, the Brazilian Cerrados, that was
Sure.
very dry, acid pH, and so on. So we did some natural breeding, just putting the strains on the soil and give some adaptation to them. But then, of course, with this approach, we were able to find microorganisms that allow the plants to have maximum yield. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was, I think that's the different, this different approach that really succeeded well. And then what happened? Because this of increasing the use of biologicals, and everybody now is starting to really recognizing all over the world the
Right.
importance of biological. I believe that there are two explanations. Like in countries such as Brazil, we import 85% of all chemical fertilizers
Right.
that we use. And then in 2020, we have the COVID, and also we had the war of Russia and Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
We imported most of the chemical fertilizers from these two countries.
Right.
And then, look, we had no fertilizers in the market.
Right.
That was a huge opportunity for us, because
Mm-hmm.
many farmers, we talked to them and said, look, you have to use, just believe our results.
Right.
But of course, they had the huge marketing of the chemicals.
Right. Right.
Okay, and then the chemical said, oh, do not believe in these people. They are
Right.
crazy. You can never reach high yields using biologicals. But then the farmers, they have no choice, and
Right,
then they
right,
decide to use the biologicals, and they realize that what we said in research was correct. They got very high yields at a very low cost. And then in countries such as Brazil, the main driver has been costs,
right,
okay. But
right,
at the same time, in some like in Europe and everything, the concerns about nutritional value, not having chemical residues,
right,
like food quality.
right,
Also, it started with the COVID. Okay,
right,
people started to talk more and to be concerned about quality of
right,
food.
right,
And so also in these countries, then the biologicals started to be more used, more known.
right.
And what for me the important thing is that all over the world everybody is more concerned about using biologicals, and they are the rate of use of biologicals in agriculture is far higher today than in relation to chemicals
Right.
than before.
I love that you're dispelling the myth that using biologicals can't feed the world. You're showing exactly the opposite and working directly with farmers to do that. Can you talk about that sort of participatory research that you have done throughout your career?
Yes, well, I work at the soybean center in Brazil, and of course, then my main crop is soybean. One thing that's very interesting is that in other countries, everybody thinks about, oh, soybeans, just these big farmers that we saw on the TV, and
Right.
so no, 75% of the farmers that grow soybean in Brazil, they are small farmers.
Wow.
Small farmers in Brazil are like 50 hectares. I'm sorry, I do not know how to calculate in acres,
That's
but
okay.
it's 50
That's okay.
hectares. And then a very interesting work, one example is here in my state, Paraná state. We did now we are in the seventh year, but we in the first 5 years we went to the farmers to demonstrate the advantage of what we call co-inoculation of soybean. It's that we put a nitrogen fixer, a bradyrhizobium, and a microbe that produces lots of phytohormones. Then the roots increase, and then the uptake of water and nutrients is increased, and that's the best technology, biological technology
Sure.
that we have today for the soybean. So we go there to do participatory activities. So we did in these 5 years 273 plots,
Wow.
demonstration plots, and then we went there with the farmers. It's almost 3,000 farmers in these 5 years. We did the sowing with them. Okay, we mixed the bacteria with the seeds. We explain how to do. Then we explain what the bacteria were going to do. Then in the middle of the crop season, we went there. We pick up the plants. We show the nodules in the
Sure.
roots. Explain what was nitrogen fixation, and finally we harvested the soybean with the farmers. And these were all farmers with less than 50 hectares. And
Sure.
very important, then we did the statistics of these 5 years of field demonstration, and they increased yield. And very important for these farmers, they had a profit by using this bacteria of $111 per hectare.
Wow.
That's a lot of money for these small farmers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the soybean crop has about 4 months. The rest of the year they do all the other crops like
Sure.
rice, beans that they eat and everything. But
Hmm.
this 4 month, this $111 per hectare is the cash that they need to improve their lives. Okay,
Right, right,
to buy a new equipment, like to have a better internet in the farmers so that their children will not want to leave for the city and
right.
so on. So what's beautiful and what I feel very that the life has been very good for me for giving me this opportunity of using these biologicals is that the same technology, the same bacteria, they help the small farmers and they also help the big farmers. They we use the same in 1 hectare or in 100,000 hectares. So that's really wonderful to work with something that's useful for all.
That's beautiful. I feel like listening to you, the work with the farmers, you had to develop relationships based on trust. That was very important. Can you talk about building those relationships? You said earlier that other scientists thought you were crazy at times to, want to focus on biologicals. Did those farmers think you were crazy at first? And how did you build trust?
Well, the thing is that farmers are easier than we think. Okay, if you have opportunity to show to them. The problem that we usually have is the marketing of the chemicals. Okay,
Right,
it's very, very heavy. But usually, this marketing of chemicals. They are more towards big farmers that spend more money with the chemicals. I think that's easier to deal with the small farmers than with big farmers. Usually, small farmers they like you to listen to them.
sure.
They expose their problems, sometimes even about their family or whatever. Okay,
Right, right.
you have to be able to listen to them,
Yep.
then you explain what do you think, what do you want to show to them. And really I never had problems with the small farmers. Now the big farmers, sometimes they are just like okay, they are more difficult to deal with. But anyway, if you talk to them and if they perceive that they can save money, they
Right.
immediately start to use the biologicals.
Absolutely. It all comes down to the economics in so many ways. I'm wondering if you have thoughts on how we can help these sort of, the low cost technologies that really benefit farmers, on the other end economically. How can we make sure that some of these technologies, that are low cost, very simple, can reach other parts of the world beyond Brazil, beyond the United States?
Well, I talk about a very well succeeded story about the soybean nitrogen fixation in Brazil. But even in Brazil, we have so many things to offer, and we have problems. Why? What are our problems? The problems that I think that you can find in many parts of the world, like if I work for a public institution, we do not sell anything. Okay,
Mhm.
we develop technologies. Sometimes we do collaboration with the private sector. Okay, because otherwise we'll not be able to put the things in the market, but we do not sell anything. So I think that at least in Brazil, but I believe that in many countries, in many countries also, the problem is the private sector. Like here in Brazil, we have more than 70 years of research of nitrogen fixation with several legumes. We did lots of efforts, so we have about 80 elite strains for more than 100 legumes that include tropical and to temperate forage,
Hmm.
grain producers, trees, green manure, everything. Okay. Now, they are free for the industry to produce
Sure.
inoculants. Okay, we just give them for free, but they do not want to produce. They want to produce biologicals for only for the crops that they can do lots of money, because there
Ah,
is a very extensive area, like a
sure.
soybean that's in 47 million hectares today, maize that's in almost 20 million hectares. So many farmers, they call us and they ask, even for common beans, look, our traditional food in Brazil is rice and common beans, that's facelos vulgaris, every day. We
Right.
produce, today we crop about 300,000 hectares of uh, common bean here in Brazil. So you can think, wow, 300,000 doses of biologicals, and you can do many biologicals, so maybe you can do a profit as an industry. But no, why will they produce to 300,000 hectares if the soybean has 47 million hectares? So that's a main problem, okay, to
Sure.
have industries that want to produce for small farmers
Yeah.
and for crops that are not in very extensive area. And in some places like in Africa, what I saw is that very difficult distribution. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, distribution for the biologicals to reach the farmers was is very complicated. So this is really sad, because we have technologies, we have strains that we can apply to all
Right.
crops all over the world. But the private sector, either in production or in distribution, is the main limitation today.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and that that distribution of biologicals to help farmers is so necessary in the places you mentioned, sub-Saharan Africa, and it's a question of access and equity and all of the things that sort of work to keep farmers down instead of helping uplift them. One of the, of
But then let me just tell.
course,
Well, then of course you think, wow, if it's important for the farmers and for the planet, okay, because to use biologicals, the pollution, the emission of greenhouse gas just goes down. The government should have this responsibility.
sure,
But well, I do not know what would happen today. But what I can say is that this was a problem in Brazil, because when they started to grow soybean in commercial scale, we were very lucky that we have two microbiologists in the committee of the soybean here in Brazil in the 1960s, and then they convinced that biological nitrogen fixation was important. So the government obligated the farmers, like if when they bought a bag of seeds, they should have also for free, but they should have the bag of microbial inoculant. Okay.
mm-hmm.
And so, what do you know what happened? The farmers did not think that that was important because it was for free. And
Oh,
so, okay, I don't know what would be today, but I know that it was a disaster. It took us a
sure,
long time to convince that it was free because it was good. But they, till today, we have a problem of very low price of microbioinoculants because they were giving for free
right.
50 years ago. So I give this for the people from economics to solve how would the best solution going to be. I really do not know.
Yeah, it's a conundrum for sure. I do want to change gears a little bit, Dr. Hungry, and talk about, one of the things that I admire most about you is that you're a very effective communicator. You have written, hundreds and hundreds of scientific articles, chapters for books, studies that have appeared in many journals. I wonder how you think about communicating your findings to the public, especially to policymakers.
Well, um, To policy, to public, I have no problem. I really this I think because I'm a professor. I go to day fields, and I go to international congress. So I really learn how to talk to different types of publics. Okay, to the farmers, I speak in way, the students or the scientific community, and even for the policymakers. What I have, well, at least in Brazil, I did not have a very successful experience lately, because what I saw is that like we had a problem of new legislation about
Hmm.
bio inputs, and then I was called to the Congress, to the Senate, and I talked to lots of politics, and then I showed the results. They were, wow, wonderful, wonderful. But by the end, they decided what they wanted.
Sure,
Okay,
sure.
they did not listen to the signs. And then
Yeah,
I was very disappointed, because many key points that I said, well, these you have to include. Then there were economic interests. So I have learned that politics usually they listen more to economic
sure.
interest than to the science. And another bad experience, but that I take, like I really want to know how to communicate these days, because it's amazing, but this I talk to lots of people, and they say that's everywhere. Like I prepare a video of 2 3 minutes, where I see the result. I expose the results of 30 field experiments,
Mm-hmm.
very conclusive. I talk in 3 minutes, and I have 10,000 views, and then
Wow, wow.
no, but then a stupid guy that talks something absolutely nonsense about biologicals,
Sure.
but go there doing some dancing or whatever,
Yeah,
he has 1 million views. So I'm so frustrated. I want to learn how to communicate in uh, this new world. Uh,
yeah. This TikTok world.
headquarter, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not easy when there's so much noise and trying to get, the science. You said listen to the science to get that science across to convince people. Dr. Hungria, when you started your career, I'm interested to hear if there were, I suspect not, but were there other women in your program? And how hard was it for you as a woman scientist to really be able to progress in your career?
Well, I was very lucky because I had two women that were extremely important in my life. The first was my grandma, that was a science teacher at a public school, but she was a magic
Uh,
grandmother. She saw that I was very interested in science and everything, and she always said to me that I could be whatever I wanted to be, and if I want to be a scientist and agronomist and everything, I should go ahead and so on. And the second woman was a brilliant, brilliant scientist, Dr. Joanna Doberainer. She came from the old Czech Republic, but she came to Brazil, but she was naturalized as a Brazilian. And she was one of the most famous women in microbiology, not
wow.
only Brazil, but in the world. And then I decided to go and to do my PhD with this woman. She invited me, and then 8 months after I finished, she offered me a job, and
Nice.
I learned. She was my mentor to learn. I learned how to be a scientist with her. Okay, even how to be critical in papers that was reading and everything. So these two women were very important for me.
Right.
No, Dr. Joanna do Berainer was also very important. She was going to be 100 years last year, so we did
Wow.
workshop. I organized a workshop. It was very very nice to have this honor to her. But I think that well, 40 years ago, when invited me, she gave me a job. She was also a pioneer in women's rights,
Mm,
because I was a mother very early. I was 19
okay.
years old when I
Wow.
got mother by accident at the university. And then I had another daughter also that had special needs. But she never saw this limitation in me.
Right.
I'm
Right.
sure that if it was a man there, he was not going to hire me. Okay. But
Right.
Joanna saw that I was very dedicated, that I really loved science. And then she never had doubts about hiring a woman with two daughters, with no family around to help and everything. So, but except for these two women, I can tell that really I had lots of problems because there were
Sure.
not many women. Worse, no, I was a woman working with biologicals that nobody
Right.
believed it, with two daughters.
Yeah.
So I was very improbable to succeed in my career, but
Look at you now. You've proved everyone wrong. That's great. And one
yeah.
of the things that I learned about you is that you really try to limit competition in your lab. And I wonder, I think this is especially important for women scientists, who are coming up in the field. Can you talk about that, why that was important for you?
Yes, yes. Why? Because, well, especially, well, I don't like to work alone. I don't like to compete. That was my nature.
Right.
When I spent 3 years in USA, but this was a long time ago, and I was very, I had this bad impression of competition. In United States, lots of competition,
Hmm.
but then coming back to Brazil, and I had this opportunity of working in USA. Well, the grants and everything, it was so wonderful, lots of money. But one of the things that made me never thinking about staying USA. It was first that my country really needed me. Okay, I knew
Hmm.
that I
Hmm.
could contribute a lot. Second, I had access to public university,
Right.
master, and so otherwise I could never have done a master PhD. So I think that I had to pay that to my country. And third, because of this spirit of collaboration that I like it very much. And then, look, we are very limited on money to do research in Brazil.
Right.
So we have to help each other.
Right.
Okay. So in my lab, I really, every student that I say, look, you have to help everybody. That does not mean that you have authorship in his work. Okay, you have to
Right.
help because you have to learn how to do
Right.
the things, how to help you, because this friend will also help you. Of course, that if you have a scientific contribution to the work, you are going to have the authorship. Otherwise, you have to learn how to work
Sure.
in the community to help everybody and so on. And I really think that the science of the future will be a female science. Okay, because I believe that uh, these things that are more related to women does not mean that because many men can have this female uh, properties too. Okay,
Sure. Right.
yeah, that are not being competitive.
Right.
Listen to the others, okay,
Right.
including diversity, because diversity gives you different ideas and participation and
Hmm.
everything. okay, collaboration and everything. And something very interesting is that today these people of communication, they talk a lot about participative science, okay. And I say, well, I do this a long time ago,
Right,
and I
right,
did not know, because every research that I did, it was because a farmer came to me and talked about something.
right, right.
When I first started here at the soybean center, I started with the inoculation of the soybean, that it was zero. And then a farmer came and told me, look, but I have maize and wheat. What do you have for my other
Sure,
crops? And then I said, okay. And then one farmer came and said to me, well, when you gave to me this bacteria from the maize and the wheat, and then I cropped soybean, it was better. Then I started to work with to study this co-inoculation of doing braid rhizobium with this phytohormone bacteria. And so every thing that I studied and that I transformed in technology, okay, all the products that we had and everything, it was because a farmer came, or I met a farmer in a day field, and he told me what he wanted. He gave me ideas,
sure.
me what was happening, and this gave me ideas to do my work. So I do participatory science a long time ago, and I did
Absolutely.
not know that.
Absolutely. And solved actual problems that farmers were experiencing. And I love that you talk about the science of the future as diverse, participatory, collaborative. That's really something to look forward to, I think, for a lot of us. I do want to turn to Q&A from the audience in a second, but I wonder what advice you have for young researchers and scientists who are, trying to follow in your footsteps on this path of promoting regenerative agricultural practices.
Well, my advice is that if you believe in something, you have to go ahead with that. Does not matter if people say that you have no future or that's
Right.
not important. Of course, in the way, if you realize that that was not the way, just change it. But many times, and like for me in science, I had many opportunities, even in my career, to like, wow, we have fashion science, okay, well, let's do this now. They are giving money for that. I believe that the prize that I received, the World Food Prize, it was because my persistence, resilience, and just keeping
Right.
on what I believed. So just go, because to work, we spend more hours in life working than doing any other thing. So you have to work with joy, with belief, and everything. Otherwise, I think that should be very boring, just uh,
Right.
working because you have to survive and pay your bills.
That's really good advice. Be persistent, be resilient, have joy and belief in your work. I love that advice. I do want to open it up for Q&A. You can use the raise your hand function, and I can call on you. Otherwise, I have lots of questions for Dr. Hungria, but I know she'd love to hear from you. Elena and Bernie, if you can. Oh, great. So Vicky, nice to see you, Vicky. Thanks for being here.
Hi, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you may be in the world. I work with organic farmers in Michigan, USA, and as well as Malawi and Tanzania, Niger over the years, and still some. And I wonder, are those farmers that are resistant to trying the inoculum on non-crop uh, seed, do you feel it was perhaps due to they felt they didn't have the land availability?
Well, but do you talk about the farmers in Michigan or
No,
in
no, I'm talking about
Africa?
your farmers, the farmers that you're working with. You mentioned that they were resistant or they didn't.
No,
What?
just the big farmers. Why?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
they, yeah, but no, but they are now starting to use every day more and more. Why? Because there is this huge marketing of the chemicals. So they just go and they say that that's bullshit. Biologicals, you cannot reach maximum yield with the biologicals. We have these competitions that you have also in USA of leaders of yield and so on. They put so many things and they just take the best piece of land, so that's not really real.
No, right.
Okay,
And yeah,
yeah, say, wow, this man, they do not say that it was just a portion of their farm, the best part of their farm. They just give the list of the products that they use, and some of them they use like 20, 30 products, just non-economic at all. Okay,
right. It's
so
juju.
it's a question of marketing, but I believe that for us, this big opportunity that was the COVID and the war, it was an opportunity for them to try and to see that what we were talking, it was real.
Right. Yeah, thank you. On that mention of the current opportunity that you talked about regenerative ag and I I'm nervous from what I've seen so far on regenerative ag that there's a lot of greenwashing involved in it. And you mentioned that sort of like the making a list of biologicals that are just out there for you know almost like silver bullets. But how do we integrate the reality of biologicals, the effectiveness, the opportunities of effective biologicals with things like regenerative ag? Because farmers' ears are perked with the term regenerative ag, but how do we move them down the right aisle?
Well, for many years, we talked just about sustainability. So
Right.
the idea of sustainable agriculture, it was like to maintain, okay? And now this, we would like to go to a step further, okay? Because like to regenerate, because we lost many things when we took the natural vegetation and we put agriculture. So it would be kind of to recover something that we have lost. So try to regenerate, to to go closer from the nature. But of course, every time that we have something good, we also have people that take the opportunity just to make money, and that has been also a problem for us in biologicals. Like you said, many products are just crazy. They have no validation in large scale, and they are like the silver bullet. Okay, they promise lots of things. So I think that we should rely on results from public institutions.
Mm.
Okay. So for that, we have to really support public institutions because they have no commercial interest and you can trust their results.
Right.
Okay.
And that,
Because many of these silver bullets that I say, they just came with their results, private
mhm.
results
And it's all
that,
glittery and commercialized, and so it
yes,
catches their attention before there's science. And this is the challenge. Like we at land in the U.S., we have the land grant universities. We produce. Sometimes you hear land grant universities. The science is the best kept secret. Sadly, we don't have that marketing outreach that we need to embrace to get the farmers to notice, to say, there's something here. Look at these tests. This is
Sure.
real, not just because this guy is driving up in his fancy Silverado and wearing his brand new cowboy boots and looking good.
Right. Thanks,
yeah.
Vicki. Thank you, Dr. Hungria. I do want to get to another question from Christine. Christine, are you ready? Root, do you want to go off mute? There you go.
There you
No.
go. All right. So I'm really caught by the conversation we were having earlier and this competition between the economic kind of policy side of things and then the need on the ground and the support and the resilience that farms need. And I look at that because we're approaching a period in time where they are one and the same story, right? We won't have food and supply chains if we continue to extract from the soil. The depleted state of our ecosystems are actually causing us to not be able to use the same tools we used in the past. And so I feel like that presents that opportunity to bring those two together as a solution. And I wonder from your perspective, who are some of the stakeholders that you think are ready to start seeing the connection between those two pieces as being one and the same? We need resilience at the farm level. We need these biologicals to be able to get the economic prosperity and to maintain those supply chains that are needed to feed the world. Who do you think should be at the table in that conversation?
Well, Christine, what I have learned is that I knew that I could never reach a farm, especially small farmers, and say, look, I'm offering a biological solution. You are going to be a good person for the planet. You are going to improve your soil health, but you will not have a high yield. Okay, so you lose money and will help the planet and will help the soil. That was not fair, especially for small farmers. That's why my approach was always to have maximum yield with the biologicals. But what I have learned is that these farmers, when you start talking about biologicals and explain to them what's like soil health, they are so interested. Like we are very proud of having a new soil bioanalysis here in Brazil. We worked 20 years and now we have this soil bioanalysis. There are two enzymes together with organic matter, and then we have a very easy classification for the farmer. If green, if it's okay, yellow if he has to take care of, or red if it's really bad situation. Let's see what we can do. And in a very short time, like 4 years, we have read 60,000 soil analysis done by farmers all over Brazil in a very short time. So they want to know how the health of their soil is. So I believe that if we have these approaches of, okay, I'll help you to have a good yield, and then you listen to me about soil health, mitigation of emission of greenhouse gas, then they will listen to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hungria. Sadly, we are running out of time. I want to thank everyone for joining this call. I want to thank and congratulate Dr. Hungria on being the World Food Prize laureate. It's so exciting. I've really enjoyed today's conversation. And again, thank you to everyone who joined us.
Bye. Thank you very much.